Welcome to Must Have Missed It, the podcast about how James hasn't seen any Christmas movies.
Ho, ho, no.
What's that famous movie you're always quoting, the one you and your friends can't stop referencing? There's a really good chance James has never seen it.
Yeah, do you have a better chance at getting mistakenly invited to a Christmas party on the other side of the country that ends up getting crashed by a gang of 6-foot Germans with feet smaller than your sister's than finding a movie that I've seen?
But that's why we're here. I'm forcing James to watch a whole bunch of movies he probably should have seen already.
I can't blame you there. That's true.
I'm Josh, just a fly in the ointment, monkey in the wrench, a pain in the ass. And this is my co-host.
I'm James, and Bubby, I'm your white knight.
Sprechen Sie talk. Follow us on Instagram at Must Have Missed It, on Twitter at Must Have Missed It. You can email us at musthavemissedit@gmail.com. Occasionally we'll post stuff on TikTok. You're welcome to follow it if you like trash content. Also join the Discord, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get them. We're not picky.
There's so many ways to find us, guys. Find us.
It's not that hard. Follow, subscribe. So, James, what movie are we talking about today?
Today, we're talking about Die Hard.
Die Hard. What did you know about this movie going into it?
I think I knew a couple of the actors, Bruce Willis, Alan Rickman. I knew that Alan Rickman was the villain, Bruce Willis was the protagonist, and apparently this is a Christmas movie.
Yeah, so that's kind of why we picked this movie. Why else would we pick this movie?
I think it just has to be purely iconicism. Yeah, there are a couple times a season that we want to do movies that are really up there on the how have you not seen this meter.
Yeah.
And I think that this one has got to be pretty high on that meter.
Yeah,
so
pretty high.
It's one that much like I feel like some movies that will come to cover, my dad would be really ashamed that I hadn't seen. He loves this movie, but
yeah,
I think it's just one of those that any person you see that you tell them you haven't seen Die Hard, I mean, in my age range, that's pretty shocking.
Yeah, for sure. So on the how has James not seen this meter, I would put this at probably a 10. If not a 10, it's a high 9. Iconic movie, spawned a whole slew of a whole subgenre of movies. We'll get into that later. Die Hard is an adaptation of a 1979 novel, Nothing Lasts Forever, by Roger Thorpe, which sounds like the name of a James Bond movie. This novel is a sequel to Thorpe's 1966 novel, The Detective, which was adapted into a movie in 1968 starring Frank Sinatra. The rights to Nothing Lasts Forever were purchased before the book had even been written. In 1987, struggling screenwriter Jeb Stewart was tasked to write the screenplay for the movie that would eventually become Die Hard by Lloyd Levin, head of development at a subsidiary of 20th Century Fox. Stewart was given a good deal of creative freedom, but the Christmas in LA setting was a requirement for the movie. It's funny to think that Die Hard was originally pitched as Rambo in an office building, but that was essentially the pitch for this, considering that so many movies will be Die Hard in a whatever. It's funny to think about that. A lot of changes were made from the novel to the movie, including making the protagonist much younger than the 60-plus-year-old protagonist from the novel, expanding the perspective to include scenes the protagonist is not present for. In the novel, it's all from the protagonist's perspective, so if he's not there, you don't see it. Creating the Richard Thornburg character and subplot, which, we'll get back to that. Keeping Argyle more involved in the story and including the plot about John trying to reconcile with his estranged wife. The script was finished in June 1987, and Fox greenlit the script the day after it was turned in. It would later be rewritten by Stephen E. D'Souza, who had experienced blending action and comedy, having previously written the script for the movie 48 Hours with Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy. He rethought the story and framed Hans Gruber more as the protagonist of the story, which, if you think about it, kind of makes sense because without Hans Gruber, the story is just about John McClane going to L.A. to meet his wife and be at a Christmas party. There's not really a lot of action in that plot, so yeah, it makes sense to kind of think of Hans as the protagonist of the movie. Producer Joel Silver wanted a scene between Gruber and McClane before they met at the end of the movie, but D'Souza couldn't think of a way to make it happen. That is until he overheard Alan Rickman on set speaking in an American accent. That would allow Gruber to disguise himself and pretend to be somebody else when he meets McClane earlier in the movie. John McTiernan was approached to direct Die Hard by producers Lawrence Gordon and Joel Silver. They had previously worked with him on 1987's Predator. Okay movie, it's fine. McTiernan was hesitant to do a movie about terrorists. He thought they were, just kind of very negative movies where people just do shitty stuff, and he didn't want to make that. So he only agreed to do it on the condition that the movie had some joy in it. He would later return to the series to direct the only other movie in the series that's worth watching, Die Hard with a Vengeance. The cast of Die Hard features Bruce Willis in his star-making role as John McClane, New York City detective and a dude who's just fucking over it. Alan Rickman in his first movie role as the villain that all future movie villains would be judged against, Hans Gruber. Bonnie Bedelia, criminally underused in this movie as Nakatomi's second in command and the estranged wife of John McClane, Holly Gennaro. Reginald VelJohnson, future neighbor of Steve Urkel, as Sergeant Al Powell, a Los Angeles policeman who once shot a kid. Alexander Godunov as Carl, Gruber's nigh unkillable right-hand man. Paul Gleason as Deputy Chief Dwayne T. Robinson, who clearly isn't in charge of jack shit. Devereaux White as Argyle, a true literal ride or die, and John's limo driver. Clarence Gilliard as Theo, Gruber's computer and tech guy. He definitely knows DOS. William Atherton as Richard Thornburg, news reporter and human garbage. Hart Bachner as Harry Ellis, who is like the 80s personified. James Shigeta as Joseph Takagi, head dude in charge of the Nakatomi Corporation. Also, there's a bunch of red shirts in Gruber's crew, but we don't really have time to go over all those names. James, red shirts is a reference to the original Star Trek series. If there was a person in a red shirt, you knew they were probably not coming back from the mission.
Word.
Sucks to be you and the red shirt guy. Because this movie is technically a sequel to a novel that Fox had previously bought the rights for, they were contractually obligated to offer the part to 70-year-old Frank Sinatra, who fortunately turned the movie down. This would have been a very, very, very different movie with Frank Sinatra in the lead role. You know who else turned it down? Fucking everybody. Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Pacino, Harrison Ford, Richard Gere, Clint Eastwood, Nick Nolte, Mel Gibson, Don Johnson, Paul Newman, James Caan, Burt Reynolds, and MacGyver himself, Richard Dean Anderson.
What?
All of them said no. Even Bruce Willis said no initially. He was under contract for the TV show Moonlighting and was only able to take the role because his co-star Sybil Shepherd got pregnant and production was shut down for a few months. Alan Rickman was cast by Joel Silver, who had seen him perform in Les Liaisons Dangereuses on Broadway. As I mentioned a moment ago, this was his first film role, and he was already in his 40s. Imagine a world where Joel Silver never goes to see that play. Imagine another actor playing Severus Snape in the Harry Potter franchise. The Sheriff of Nottingham in that terrible, terrible Kevin Costner Robin Hood movie. What a world. I don't want to live in that world.
Alan Rickman, for God's sakes.
Die Hard began filming in November 1987 and finished in March 1988. It was filmed almost entirely in and around Fox Plaza, but the location could only be secured on two conditions, as it was still under construction at the time: no filming during the day and no damage from explosions. They managed one of those things. Cinematographer Jan de Bont liked that the building had a distinct design, making it almost like a character in the movie. A lot of personality to the building. Die Hard premiered in Los Angeles on July 12, 1988. It received a wide release on July 22nd and earned $7.1 million in its opening weekend, finishing third behind two future podcasts, Coming to America and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It finished its theatrical run with domestic total of around 82 million. It's a little disputed, and an overseas total of 57.7 million for a worldwide total in the neighborhood of 140 million dollars. Cinema Score had its audience average at an A+, but critics were a little more divided. Alan Rickman's performance was pretty much universally praised, as were the cinematography by Jan de Bont and the direction by John McTiernan. But a lot of critics had an issue with the movie's apparent theme of redemption through violence, with Al's story cultivating in him, killing Carl at the end, and John basically getting his wife back by not murdering, but killing a bunch of terrorists, and some of the performances. But none of that stopped Die Hard from becoming one of the most influential action movies of all time. It basically became its own genre. Die Hard on a bus, Speed. Die Hard on a mountain, Cliffhanger. Die Hard on a plane, Air Force One. Die Hard on a plane with motherfucking snakes. Snakes on a plane. And of course, Hans Gruber became the standard bearer for all action movie villains to come, and most of them still live in his shadow. It's a hard performance to top. But enough about this movie. What is this movie actually about? Well, it begins with John McClane landing in L.A. He seems nervous about the flight, so his seatmate gives him some advice about stress relief that John is skeptical about, which will prove warranted. His seatmate sees the gun in John's holster, but John explains that it's all good. It's fine that he has a firearm on an airplane because on the other side of the country, he's a police officer. Cut to a fancy office Christmas party. Mr. Takagi, the head of the company, thanks his staff for their hard work, and then we see Ellis trying his hardest to smash with Holly Gennaro, who happens to be John's wife. Holly ignores him and calls home to check on the kids and see if John is called. He hasn't. John is surprised to find a limo waiting for him at the airport. His driver is as new to driving the limo as John is to riding in them. Argyle chats up John on the way to the party, and we find out that John and his wife are living on opposite coasts. Holly took a job in California, and John didn't want to leave his job in New York City as a cop. He gets to Nakatomi Plaza, and Argyle, a real one, tells John that he'll wait in the parking garage until John calls him to tell him whether he needs a place to stay or not. John walks in, names a person who may or may not work there, chooses a different name from the directory, and is let right in. Security is not great at Nakatomi. He gets up to the party and is greeted by Joe Takagi, the head dude in charge of Nakatomi. He thanks him for the limo, and Takagi takes John into Holly's office, where Ellis is snorting cocaine off her desk. Holly greets John with a hug, but he was obviously expecting a kiss. John and Holly talk while John takes a horse bath. Holly offers John a spot in her guest room, but John is clearly butthurt about her choice to use her maiden name. They then argue about what happened to their marriage before Holly is summoned to give a speech to the staff. Theo and Carl enter the Nakatomi building, and Carl kills the guy at the desk, then the other guy near the elevator. Theo starts hacking a computer terminal, locking doors, and restricting the elevators to only stop above floor 29, and Hans leads the rest of the team into the building through the parking deck. John makes fists with his bare toes in the carpet to try to relax, then calls Argyle right as the phone lines get cut by Carl. The fake terrorists enter the party and begin wasting their ammo, shooting at the ceiling repeatedly to get everyone's attention. Like, we're talking over 100 rounds. I counted. It's insane how many bullets they waste shooting at the fucking ceiling in this scene. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. John is able to escape into a stairwell somehow, but he has no shoes now. Gruber reads from his fake manifesto, then asks Takagi to step forward. After Gruber recites his entire life story, Takagi does step forward. He's taken upstairs where he's asked for the code to the vault. Takagi insists he doesn't know it, but Gruber kills him anyway. Theo then promises Gruber that he can crack the safe regardless, while John prays that Argyle has awareness of the situation. He doesn't. Gruber's men start setting explosives, and Theo explains to Gruber that he can only get through the first 6 of the vault's locks, but not the 7th. Gruber seems unconcerned. John berates himself for not preventing Takagi's murder. Then he has the bright idea to pull the fire alarm. Eddie alerts Gruber, who orders him to cancel the call and shut down the alarm system. John watches in disappointment as the trucks turn around, but more pressingly, he has company. Gruber sent Tony to find John. John literally throws his gun away, but when they fight, John lucks out when Tony dies falling down a flight of steps. John takes the weapon and bag, but not the shoes, which are way too small, and sends the body down in the elevator with a message for Gruber. Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho. Carl is fucking pissed and out for blood, but Gruber tells him to stick to the script. Holly tells Ellis that John must be causing problems for the fake terrorists, and Ellis complains that John is going to get them all killed. On the roof, John uses a walkie-talkie to try to call for help. The cops don't seem to believe him, but after Carl and his cohort start shooting, they decide to send Sergeant Al Powell over to check it out. Gruber wants Carl's crew to head back downstairs, but Carl isn't having it. John managed to escape into the vents, nearly falling to his death in the process. Interesting backstory on the scene. The stuntman actually fell further than he was supposed to, and they ended up using the take. That's not what the scene was supposed to look like, but they were like, oh, that's way better, so we'll use that. Carl tracks his likely progress and shoots just a few bullets into the ventilation ducts, but misses John. He's about to find him when he suddenly decides to start following his boss's orders again and leaves. John heads back to the room where Takagi was killed and watches Al circle around a couple times before he finally decides to actually do his job and go talk to the guy at the hotel desk. John smashes the window and then kills 2 of the fake terrorists. Al spends about 14 seconds looking around the lobby before deciding this isn't worth the time. Just as he's leaving, John throws Marco's body on top of the police car. As Al is frantically backing away, he begins taking fire from one of the fake terrorists. He radios for help, and the LAPD send their best guy, or best available guy, or just an available guy. Deputy Chief Dwayne T. Robinson is not good at his job. Also, the call for help is overheard by a news reporter, Richard Thornburg, who talks his boss into letting him go check it out. John calls Gruber on the walkie-talkie to taunt him and drops the "Yippee-Ki-Yay, motherfucker" line. It turns out that John killed the guy with the detonators, and they are now in his possession. Argyle, who has been clueless about the entire fake terrorist thing to this point, finally finds out about it via the TV in the limo. He decides that now would be a pretty good time to get out of there, but the gates are closed in the parking deck, so he's stuck. Al and Deputy Chief Robinson argue about McClane, and Robinson orders the SWAT team to move in. It goes poorly. Even the LAPD Batmobile can't withstand the fake terrorist rocket launcher. John, on some MacGyver shit, rigs a bomb with a rolling chair, a computer monitor, and some C4, blowing up an entire floor of the Nakatomi building, but taking out a couple more of Gruber's guys. John gives Deputy Chief Robinson the business on the walkie, and Argyle, who's listening on his police scanner or something, fucking loves it. Ellis gets a bright idea to try to negotiate with Gruber, who can barely hide his dislike of Ellis, and Ellis promises Gruber that he can get John to surrender. Gruber calls John and calls him by name, then hands the phone to Ellis, who tries to talk John into giving up. Ellis tells John that Gruber is going to kill him if he doesn't give back the detonators, and John refuses, so Gruber kills Ellis. Gruber radios the police and gives them a list of fake demands to keep them occupied. Then he sends Carl to find John while he goes to check the explosives. The FBI shows up, and they let Deputy Chief Robinson know who's in charge. Agent Johnson. Secret Agent Johnson. Special Agent Johnson. Secret Agent. Anyway.
No relation.
No relation. While checking the explosives, Gruber stumbles across John. He puts on his best fake American accent, and John falls for the ruse. The FBI decides that this is just a standard A7 scenario. No biggie. There's a playbook for this. John and Gruber share a friendly moment, and then John gives him a handgun. Gruber waits until John is facing away from him and pulls the gun on him, but...
Surprise, motherfucker!
The gun is empty. But then...
Surprise, motherfucker!
Carl shows up with a couple of red shirts, and Carl and Gruber shoot it out with John for a bit, shattering an absurd number of panes of glass. John makes a run for the exit, getting away, but remember how he has no shoes on? Did we talk about that earlier?
I think so.
We might have mentioned it. Anyway, he has also left the detonators, so Gruber has those back now. John crawls into the bathroom to nurse his severely bleeding feet, and Al tells him the story of how he became a desk cop. He shot a 13-year-old kid holding a fake gun, and now he won't shoot his gun anymore. Yeah, kind of sad. Also, I have an issue with this plotline. The FBI cuts the power to the building, allowing Theo to break through the final lock on the vault, which is exactly what Gruber expected to happen. You know why Theo says Merry Christmas when the vault opens? Because this is a Christmas movie. Gruber calls the FBI, who plan on double-crossing him, but
Surprise, motherfucker.
Gruber's plan is to double-cross the FBI. John, considering his mortality, calls Al and asks him to recite an incredibly long monologue to Holly. Al tries to pep him up, but John gets run over by his own train of thought. The news reporter tracked down John's personal information after hearing Gruber say his name on the walkie, and now he's at Holly's front door, threatening INS if the housekeeper doesn't let him in. Real shitty guy. John heads back up to where he found Gruber and finds the C4. He's radioing the info to Al when Carl walks up on him and puts a gun in his face. Carl tells him that, hey man, this isn't business. It's personal. Then the gun jams or he's out of bullets. I don't really know what happens here, but it's good news for John, who knocks the gun away and starts duking it out with Carl. The TV shows daughter McClane asking for her parents to come home. Gruber then figures out that Holly is John's wife, so he decides to kidnap her when his team leaves with the money. The helicopter gunships are incoming, and Gruber's men start herding the hostages upstairs. Carl manages to get his hands on a gun, and John gets grazed by a bullet. They continue fighting, and it somehow ends with Carl being hanged by a metal chain. Wild shit. John makes it to the roof and tries to get everybody to go back downstairs. When they won't listen, he starts shooting in the air, and the FBI, thinking he's a terrorist, try to take him out. He escapes, but only because the FBI has incompetent sharpshooters in this movie. Good thing he wasn't an actual fake terrorist. But at least everyone's off the roof. Well, everyone but John, who ties a fire hose to himself and jumps off the building just before it explodes, or the roof explodes anyway, crashing through a window just before he would have fallen to his death. The folks in the helicopter, not so lucky, because the helicopter crashes. We're going to need some more FBI guys, I guess. In the garage, Argyle watches Theo drive a smaller van out of the back of the bigger van and crashes into the van before knocking Theo the fuck out. John advances toward Gruber, armed with a pistol and a machine gun that's almost empty, knocking out one of the remaining fake terrorists. That just leaves Eddie and Gruber. Gruber, with Holly at gunpoint, villain explains his plan to John before ordering John to drop his gun, which shockingly he does. Everyone but Holly, who is naturally horrified by everything that's unfolding, share a good laugh. Then John grabs the gun strapped to his back, puts one in Hans Gruber's chest, and headshots Eddie. Gruber grabs Holly as he starts falling out the window. He won't let go of Holly's wrist, but John unstraps that fancy new Rolex, and Gruber loses his grip. Chekhov's Rolex. John and Holly come downstairs, and he finally gets to meet Al face to face. They embrace, and we get a happy moment before Deputy Chief Robinson comes over to get punked down by John. But then,
surprise, motherfucker.
Carl's still alive. As he takes aim at John, Carl gets taken out. The camera focuses in on the shooter, and
surprise, motherfucker.
It's Sergeant Al Powell. Thornburg attempts to interview the McClanes, but Holly punches him in the mouth. Theo comes crashing through the gates of the parking garage, and John and Holly ride off into the night without having to answer a single question from the police or the FBI. The end.
Yeah, Die Hard.
Die Hard. Some quotes from the notes, just stuff I wrote down while I was watching the movie. In the Nakatomi directory, one of the names was Pedro Martinez, which I was a big baseball fan during the time that Pedro Martinez played baseball, and I'm like, hey, Pedro Martinez is pretty awesome. The quote, John, when he's on the radio on the roof and the dispatcher is giving him shit. No fucking shit, lady. Do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
Yes, that was fucking great. Yeah.
John McClane sparking the lighter in the duct, the ventilation ducts. That's just one of the most iconic shots in the history of movies to me. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's just iconic. As soon as I see it, I know exactly what it is and how it's going to make me feel. And, it's just a fantastic shot. The best shot in this movie.
Obviously, I've never seen this movie until now, and I've seen multiple videos online where that is the clip that is used to reference this movie. So, yeah.
Carl being economical with bullets when John's in the air ducts. Like, maybe if y'all hadn't wasted 100 fucking bullets at the beginning of the movie, then you'd be able to shoot him now. I'm Agent Johnson. This is Special Agent Johnson. No relation. Man.
That's good.
Holy Christ. We're going to need some more FBI guys, I guess. Like a great line, but that Deputy Chief Robinson with the best fucking line in this movie. I absolutely love it. What you got?
Quotes from the notes. So I really like when they pay off John being barefoot.
Yeah.
And he's rubbing his toes and he's like, huh, son of a bitch. Fists with toes.
Yeah.
That was great.
Well, also, you get like a payoff to the payoff because the payoff is him doing it and realizing, oh, that is actually nice.
Yeah.
And later, because he doesn't have shoes, you get a payoff to that initial payoff. Yeah.
Smoking in an airport was kind of weird.
Yeah.
To see him doing that.
Got on an airplane, man.
Yeah, and then I remembered, 1988, right. So the scene where the fake terrorists come in and they kill the guy at the desk.
Yeah.
As they're walking in and Theo's just talking casually about a Lakers game.
Yeah.
And he's like, and Magic finds Worthy. Boom, 2 points.
2 points. Yeah.
Oh man, like that shit was it was funny, but also like, these guys are
Pretty
here to
dark.
fuck some shit up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote down the pizza pizza quote. I mean,
fantastic.
That's great. When Hans Gruber is giving his demands to the FBI and he's listing all these organizations, just trying
Asian
to
Dawn?
yeah. And he's like, I read about them in Time magazine. And that just really tickled me. I guess the rest of the stuff we can get to later, but
Okay.
I think that's about it from my quotes from the notes.
Well, I guess that means it's time for that bourbon break.
Yes, sir.
Go. And we are back. So, James, how did you feel about Die Hard, and how did Die Hard make you feel?
It was fun.
Yeah.
This was a really fun movie, and coming off of Avatar, I needed it.
Brought the fresh air.
Yeah. This was one, as I mentioned earlier, I'm pretty ashamed that I hadn't seen it. My dad would not be too happy. I was pretty geared up to watch this.
Yeah.
Like I remember once it was go time and we had to watch it, I was like, oh man, I can't wait. Like I was at work. I was like, man, I just want to get through this day so I can go home and watch Die Hard. I don't know. I don't typically flock to action movies, but I for whatever reason, I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
And then watching it, I mean, it's like 2 hours and 12 minutes or something, but it doesn't feel like it.
No.
Avatar's 2 hours and 40, and like you feel every minute of it.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think this movie could have been an hour and 45 minutes, and we will definitely get back to that. For sure. We will come back to that.
Yeah, for sure. It could have been shorter, and there were things that could have been cut out. But as far as someone like me that has a hard time sitting still, I was good.
Yeah.
Kept me entertained throughout. Some of the performances in this movie definitely kept me in it. If they weren't as good as they were, I could have definitely fallen out of this movie. But, yeah, man, start to finish, it was a fun ride. Be willing to go on it again.
Yeah. Awesome. So I assume I probably know the answer to this question. Does it live up to the hype for you?
Yeah, I only hesitate because I've heard people like really, really praise this movie to where it's like one of the best. I don't think it's one of the best movies ever made, but like for its genre, for its time, what it did for some of these actors, it's up there.
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, I love Knocked Up. I think it's a fantastic comedy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't compare it to No Country for Old Men.
Right.
You know, it's not those movies are not, just because one's at the top of its genre doesn't mean it's going to compared to another movie that's one of the best movies that exists, you know?
Yeah. So, yeah, it lives up to the hype. I think there was part of me that before the week leading up to watching the movie, where we had discussed that this was going to be a future episode, I think there was a part of me that was like, action's not my jam.
Right.
I'm not sure how this is going to work out. So yeah, reflecting on that and how I felt about it afterwards, it does live up to the hype. I mean, after this movie, I was like, damn, I don't think I expected to enjoy it as much as I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure.
I think that comes down to a few specific elements, which we will definitely also discuss later.
Yeah.
So music and movie magic, was there anything that stood out to you in terms of sound design, costume, set design, score, visuals?
The set was great. I'm not gonna act like it stuck out to me until you brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the shots outside of the building, where the helicopter scene when the FBI comes in is pretty dope, with getting to see the building and its majesty. I mean, it's dope.
24 different cameras in that shot.
What?
24 different cameras to get that shot.
Damn.
Yeah. 3 takes, 24 different cameras.
That's wild. That definitely makes me appreciate it even more. Music, no. I'm not a fan of Christmas music, and like the theme throughout this movie is Ode to Joy. And there's
Beethoven's Ninth,
there's nothing about the music really did it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Costume design, not really.
Yeah, nothing special.
You know, I mean,
just people dressed like it's the 80s.
Yeah, you know, everyone's in their work clothes. I mean, it's not really anything special. But yeah, outside of, you know, like you were talking about earlier, the set of this movie is,
really strong. Yeah, the interiors and the exteriors of the Nakatomi building, I think, are fantastic set design. It's the building, you know, like Jan de Bont said, has a lot of personality. I think the interiors, they did a really good job. I mean, it's an office building. You would expect all the rooms to kind of look about the same. And they do a really good job of giving a lot of variance. The floors under construction. And then you have the level that Takagi's office is on, and you know how nice that looks. And so yeah, really great set design in this movie. Was there anything in this movie that didn't work for you?
Yes. There is something that I will talk about in the awards season that really doesn't work for me. I don't know. I mean, maybe we could mention it or tease it at least, but the Thornburg stuff.
Yeah. The entire subplot, yeah. When I talked about the hour and 45-minute version, that's kind of what I was referring to.
Okay. Yeah.
If you take all that stuff out, like this is the exact same movie. Nothing changes whatsoever. The only real, I guess, payoff for the subplot is that when Hans sees it on TV, he looks back at a picture that he's already seen and realizes that Holly is John's wife, which is after he's already met John, which he did after he initially saw the picture. So it's completely unnecessary. It does nothing to further the plot of this movie. It's let's add an unlikable character to this movie. I fucking don't need it. I don't want it. Let's take this whole subplot out of this movie.
Yeah, I don't think there's a person out there that has watched this movie that has been like, oh, that was important.
Right.
That was a key part of the storyline. Like, no, just get that shit out of
Yeah,
here.
what would we have done without the reporter subplot? Oh man, this movie would have been terrible.
There was one other small thing, but it did bother me enough that so my wife watched this one with me. You know, she picks and chooses which one she wants to watch. But it did bother me enough that I mentioned it, where the FBI are in the helicopter and the guy's like, you know, we're going to lose 20 to 25% of the hostages. You know,
That's an acceptable number.
Yeah, like that to me was, so they depict the FBI agents and the LAPD to be kind of morons. Like they kind of don't know how to handle the situation. You know, Al Powell is the voice of reason. But I thought that was a little over the top. Like, really, we're going to go into this situation, like, willing to give up 20 to 25 innocent lives.
Right.
I
Well,
thought,
it's 7 to 9 because I think there's 35 hostages, I think was the number that we had in the movie. So 20 to 25% would be between 7 and 9 people.
oh, percent, right.
Yeah.
Still, though, like.
Yeah, you're just like, 7 or 9 people are going to die.
Yeah, you're just
You're like,
conceding
that's a reasonable number.
like
I'm fine with that.
Any hostage negotiation, I mean, I have to assume the goal is like 0.
Yeah.
So to just concede 7, like,
I mean, Robinson sucks. Deputy Chief Robinson is fucking terrible at his job and should not have his job. But in fairness to him, at least when Gruber falls off the roof, he has the, you know, he's at least like, I hope that's not a hostage. You know? Whereas the FBI would be like, well, sucks to be that guy.
right. Oh, man.
Yeah, so it's a very different thing there. What didn't work for me, there are a couple places where this movie really shows the seams, I guess. So the movie was being made before final decisions were being made on the movie. For instance, the ending, which involves, I said a van earlier, but it's actually an ambulance that they drive out of the truck that they drove in on. But the truck that they drove in on at the beginning is not actually big enough to hold that ambulance.
Yeah.
Also, the scene, I have this as a contender for least favorite scene, but I don't think I'm going to go with it. I think I'm going to go with something else, so I'll go ahead and talk about it. The scene where John meets Hans earlier in the movie, not the end, but earlier in the movie, John knows that Hans is one of the fake terrorists. He knows it. That's why he gives him a gun that isn't loaded. It's the only reason he would do that is because he knows it. How does he know it? He knows it because, and I only know this because I've done research on the movie for this fucking podcast. He knows it because he spots the Tag Heuer watch on his wrist, which he found earlier on Tony's wrist, which you would know that they all had if the movie had all been written at the beginning of filming, because they had to cut out a scene at the beginning of the movie where they're all riding in the back of that truck that has an ambulance in the back of it. So they couldn't be riding in the back of the truck where they all sync their Tag Heuer watches. So you know that all of them had the exact same watch, you know, and that's how he knows. But you don't know that in the movie, and it doesn't make any sense because that scene wasn't in there because they hadn't written the ending, and you know they needed to change some stuff around. And so there's a couple scenes like that where like the seams really kind of show in this movie. Like it's a good movie. I really enjoy this movie, but you can't help but notice if you kind of really pay attention, you know, if you're on your 5th, 6th watch maybe or whatever, you're gonna spot these things where like, wait, but why is that thing, you know, there?
I mean, even if that's a well-known like European brand of watch or something, like they don't set up how John would know that. So
Right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they don't even really show the watch in the scene. There's no indication that that's how he knows, because there didn't need to be, because they cut out this other scene that explains that they all have the same watch. So yeah, it's those little things where it's like you can tell that they didn't quite have it all figured out in the beginning, and they were just they were putting pieces together as they went in some aspects, and that's a relatively minor criticism. That's not uncommon. There are movies that undergo reshoots and rewrites all the way up until the end of the movie. So it's not, the biggest issue in the world that this movie has those things, and you can spot them if you're really paying attention. Because a lot of the other aspects of the movie really work for me.
So clear something up for me, maybe, or we can just kind of hash it out. I'm not sure if it's something that doesn't work for me or if it's something that I misinterpreted, but the scene where John gets to Nakatomi Plaza and he's signing in on the computer.
Yeah.
And eventually the guard is like, oh, the party. They're the only ones left in the building.
Right.
So why go through all the
and dance of, who are you here to see?
Yeah.
There's only one group of people left in the building.
And on my first watch, I was like, exactly that. And on my second watch, I was like, but is he fucking with John?
Right.
So I couldn't really tell.
Yeah.
But either way, I was just like, that just seemed kind of silly. Like, you're going to make him do all that shit and then be like, oh, yeah, no, there's no one here except for these people. So you have to be here to see these people. And it just kind of seemed weird.
And like I said, he gives one last name when he gets there, and then he searches a different last name, and the guard's still like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
Thank you for choosing a name from the directory. You're good to go.
Yeah.
So award season, man. Let's go ahead and get started.
Get it.
Favorite scene? What you got?
So this is kind of a Josh pick. But it really, I gave it some thought, and this is the one that did it for me. But it's John and Al talking to each other on the CB.
Yeah.
And you get the reveal of Al's past and what happened. He shot the kid, and that's why he's no longer on the streets. On the other side, you've got John going through it, digging glass out of his feet, just kind of starts the conversation, I feel like, with just, talk to me, man, like, get me through this, and then he digs up some deep shit.
Yeah.
And it's one of the first times for me that you start to really get into the development of Al's character and like, oh, okay. They have a conversation before that's, it starts to give some feelings of endearment to those characters as a pairing. And but that scene for me, first time I got emotional in the movie and was kind of surprised that this movie made me emotional. I was like, oh shit. Wasn't expecting that from Die Hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, I put it in my notes as I shot a kid scene.
Yeah.
That did it for me.
I'm kind of torn. I guess I'm gonna have to go with. Oh man.
You have a couple.
Yeah, I've got a couple that I don't want to do the 4 honorable mentions thing, so I'm just gonna. I just have to choose one. I'm gonna go with the Takagi execution scene, because it really shows you what you're dealing with in this movie. Hans Gruber is, again, the apex. He's on the top level, the S tier of movie villains. Like, just fantastic. the funny thing for me is I actually think that it's not his best villain role. I think the Sheriff of Nottingham in The Prince of Thieves is, man, I almost want to make you watch it. There's no point doing a podcast. The movie's fucking terrible.
I must have missed that one.
Yeah, but that performance is so fucking fun, man. It is like Hans Gruber on 11. It is fucking great. But kind of forgot what I was talking about
Hans Gruber execution of Takagi.
Oh, Takagi, yeah. So
Takagi.
Like I said, Takagi.
I'm gonna.
Like I said, it shows you what you're really dealing with Hans and the aftermath when he goes down into the lobby and he addresses the remainder of the staff and tells them like, you choose. You can walk out of here or not, but it's up to you. But just know that we're in charge. Like, nothing is going to be left to chance from here on out. Like we've got this shit figured out. And yeah, just a great scene to really show you, they follow him because he's a good leader, but also he's not afraid to be the guy that pulls the trigger. Maybe he's not a tech genius, but he knows a guy. Maybe he's not an enforcer, but he knows a guy.
Yeah.
And he can get these guys to rally around him, and just like, what a great villain.
Yeah.
And that scene really gives you kind of the real introduction to who he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one.
Least favorite scene?
I'm not gonna lie, this one was kind of tough. As I mentioned before, and you agree, all the stuff with Thornburg is tossable.
Yeah.
You can do without it in this movie. Specifically, though, the scene where Thornburg shows up at the Gennaro McLean household and blackmails Paulina.
Yeah, that's pretty shitty.
Saying, I'm going to call the INS unless you let me in here. Like that, I looked at my wife and I was like, that's fucking shitty.
Fuck this
guy. Like, that is so terrible. Yeah, I had to pick a Thornburg scene for this, and yeah, that one did it for me.
Yeah. I mean, I have written down is the entirety of the Thornburg subplot, but also I really don't care for the end scene, not the very end scene, but the Powell killing Carl. Because
the resurrection.
How is Carl alive? And also, again, the theme this movie seems to be pushing is that you can gain redemption through violence, and I just don't really like the idea that Al Powell becomes a hero because he's finally willing to fucking kill somebody again. It's just. That's a hard sell for me, as a scene, and as a theme for the movie. So yeah, I think it's that scene specifically for me that I find the most troublesome.
So I'm kind of kicking myself that I skimmed over something here, but on the what didn't work for me, I love the fact that they paid off Al shooting his gun, but I didn't care for Carl coming back. How did he survive that?
Right. Being hanged by a middle vein. I just don't understand. It's like John McClane is not good at determining whether people are alive or dead, because it should be really obvious if someone's hanging from a metal chain, whether they're alive or dead.
Right? And like, come on, Tony just fell down the stairs.
Yeah, instantly dead. Yeah,
his brother. Come on, man.
Hanged. Yeah, he's fine. He'll be all right. Give him a few minutes. Characters. Right. Let's go ahead and just agree that this character is the best character. James, who's the best character in this movie?
The best character in this movie is Hans Gruber.
It's Hans Gruber. What are y'all talking about? Who else could it be? What the fuck movie are y'all watching?
What I put for my favorite character, however, differs.
Huh.
And it's because I didn't want to use this person twice. Again, I will repeat myself. The best character in this movie is Hans Gruber.
Yeah.
My favorite character in this movie is John McClane.
Yeah.
He's the hero. He barely complains through this whole thing, man.
I disagree. I think he complains constantly throughout this whole movie.
I mean, kind of internally.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, okay, barely complains. All right, I'll give you that. But he's thrown into this situation and he just does what he has to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, fuck his motivations. Like, I don't care if it's just, his wife is there and that's the only reason he does all this. He still does it.
Right.
He still fucking suits up and gets it done. He doesn't want to fucking be there. He doesn't want to do this. He's got everyone telling him basically figure it out. Or, he's got people saying he's the bad guy in this situation. I mean, he's just figuring it out. I'm not going to act like I'm not kind of hot taking this.
Mm-hmm.
But when we get to a later award, like I really wanted to make a little bit of an audible, I guess.
Yeah.
So as not to have Gruber everywhere in award season.
Yeah, I mean, this is James and I talked about before we started recording. It's basically going to be a 1.5 hour Hans Gruber appreciation podcast because I mean, just a total scene stealer. I mean, the most captivating character in this movie, the best performance in this movie. I'm sorry, spoiling an award there. Just on another level from literally everybody else in this movie, and it's not even close. What he is doing is just so far above.
Yeah.
Just again, iconic villain. What every other movie villain would be measured against after that. I don't think there's a whole lot more to say.
Yeah.
About Hans Gruber. Least favorite character.
Thornburg.
Yeah, I've got Thornburg too. I mean, I can't sit here and say. I think it was Azkaban when I said, a character could be enjoyable, which he's not, but if their role in the movie doesn't need to be there, if it doesn't serve a function for the plot or the themes of the movie, then that's going to be my least favorite character, and that is what this is. This is the exact same movie without that entire subplot. Nothing changes about this movie.
Yep.
So yeah, Thornburg, get out of here. Favorite performance.
All right, Alan Rickman.
That's a hot take, James. I'm shocked you went with Alan Rickman here.
This is kind of why I took the cheap take on favorite character and went with the hero. I'm not gonna doubt that like this movie is Hans Gruber.
Mm-hmm.
Like he makes it.
Yeah.
I don't know that you pretty much mentioned everything already when you covered favorite character. The dude is absolutely ruthless, not afraid to do the dirty work himself. Smart to an extent, he obviously didn't think everything out. It didn't work out for him in the end, but also he didn't expect.
Well, it was a variable it was an unknown.
Yeah. But I do have an honorable mention on this one, just because I assume that the chalk answer, but appropriate chalk answer was Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
But my honorable mention would be Reginald Vell Johnson.
Right.
There are a few times where his line delivery doesn't quite do it for me. But it's pretty rare, and I just think the overall the embodiment of his character and the emotion when it comes out is really where he shines.
Yeah.
And I appreciated it. Only seeing him on Family Matters. So. What about you? What's your favorite performance?
I mean, it's pretty obvious who my favorite performance in this movie is. It's definitely what's that guy's name? Alan Rickman.
What?
Alan Rickman.
No
Yeah.
way.
Alan Rickman. He's again, I mean, it's an iconic performance. There's nothing I haven't already said about it that I could add now. I do really want to add or give some praise to Bonnie Bedelia. Again, criminally underused in this movie.
Yeah.
Howie Gennaro is a fantastic character, and the performance is really good. And there's not enough Howie Gennaro in this movie. I think she doesn't really have an arc. She's more or less a damsel in distress.
Yeah.
You know, she has the one boss scene, but aside from that, she doesn't really get to do a whole lot. And I think that's just kind of a shame based on how good she seems to be in terms of acting.
I do like how they kind of shied away from. I mean, they are an estranged couple on the brink of divorce. You could argue that, but they're not in the way that things are super contentious between them. Yeah, like they both clearly still love each other. Right. They both are second guessing the decision that they made. I like how they did that because I feel like in movies it's super easy to, just put some kind of infidelity or some unforgivable mistake and just make these characters hate each other. And I like how they went the different route with those two.
Yeah, just can't see eye to eye. Like, it's just,
they made career choices. They don't agree, but, it
is what it is now.
Yeah.
Least favorite performance.
This is the very last award that I came up with. Like, there weren't a lot. My least favorite character. I mean, the performance was fine. I believed that he was a fucking shitty ass reporter that only cared about his stories. I'm sorry, guys. Don't kill me. Bruce Willis.
Fuck you, man. I hate you so much. Sorry, go ahead. On
this one?
Hey, go ahead.
On this one?
Go ahead.
All right. So I can't tell you what the first Bruce Willis movie I've seen. Maybe it was The Sixth Sense. Like not a lot of exposure to the guy. I really love the character, but there were times that I just felt like they could have done a few more takes. Yeah. There were just times where I was like, this feels more than action movie corny to me. This feels like no, run it back, Bruce. Right. I don't have much more than that. That just there were times where he took me out of it a little bit, and I wasn't completely convinced. Yeah. I'm really actually like I did not think out of all the categories that this would be the one. You have this? That's why you said fuck you, man?
I want to start by defending Bruce Willis real quick.
Okay. That's what you do.
Yeah, that's what I do. I take the wild takes. Mr. Wild Take. I don't think anybody else could have played this role. I've seen this movie, 10, 12 times, and I just can't imagine it. I guess of the names that I listed earlier, Harrison Ford is the only person that I could think of in this role, but I don't think the dialogue lands with Harrison Ford because Harrison Ford is just a different actor and that's Han Solo. You know what I mean? That's Indiana Jones. It's hard to buy him as the everyman at this point.
I was going to say it's a much more smooth vibe with Harrison Ford.
Exactly. Yes, it's a different vibe. I think
you can believe the rough edges of a Bruce Willis.
Yeah, Bruce Willis essentially kind of created the everyman action hero archetype with this movie. Bob Odenkirk just did an action movie. Nobody, where he is the star of an action movie.
Yeah, I actually saw that shit.
Oh shit, really?
I think you probably told me to watch it. Yeah, he's badass in that movie.
Yeah, and like it's just wow, Bob Odenkirk, like that's where we've gotten with action movies. Like Bob Odenkirk is the star of an action movie. So I don't really want to spend too much time defending Bruce Willis because I do also have him as the worst performance in this movie. He is not a good actor. I don't know what y'all are thinking. He plays the same character in every fucking movie. Bruce Willis is exactly the same in Die Hard as he is in fucking Looper, and those movies were made almost 30 fucking years apart. Like 24 years apart, whatever.
Kind of worried.
No,
I was like, man,
he is fucking bad in this movie. The line delivery when he yells Hans's name at the end of this movie is so fucking laughable. Every time he talks to himself in this movie, I'm like, John McTiernan, where the fuck were you in this scene? Like, your job is to tell him to do better. Like, I don't know how that sounds in the conversation that you have with Bruce Willis, but just be like, hey man, can we try it one more time? But like, good.
Look, man, I don't want to get too deep here, but I'm a person that throughout my life, people have berated me for being wrong about things, and I tend to hesitate when I think that I have something that's a hot take, and I'm like, but man, I feel so much better because I'm watching this and I'm like, yeah. I
mean, like, I'm not. There's some,
like I said, not the whole movie.
Well, also some of the red shirt performances are, they're
oh
yeah,
great,
but they're dudes that are literally there just to die.
Yeah, but they're not the lead.
Their job is to die. To get killed by the protagonist in this movie.
Yeah.
So like, I can't compare them to, when you consider how much screen time Bruce Willis has in this movie, it's not even comparable. Like how bad those guys might have been. Like, Bruce Willis was bad in this movie. You know what else he was bad in? Everything else.
No, I think that's what took me so long to come to the answer, is because I was afraid of, like, I don't know, I missed some scene and you're gonna be like, nah, dude, like, he killed it in this fucking scene. But I'm like, I gotta just type it. It's in my heart. So
I was gonna make
super shocked that you. But
I was gonna make award season really weird at the end, because I initially also had Bruce Willis as the MVP of this movie, simultaneously the MVP and my least favorite performance, and I was like, "You're like, so I don't know that I'm gonna be able to justify this one, even for me. I don't know. This is a little too. This is on the other side of Josh. Like, we have." Yeah, Josh on 21, much less 11. We're on 21 now.
Bust out your chart.
Yeah.
This is what? No, okay. Oh, shit. What are we on?
We are on Coolest Hang, sir. Who do you have?
Argyle.
It's Argyle. It's so obviously Argyle.
Man, like, I even typed easiest answer thus far for this award. Like, there was never, I don't think there's been another movie where I've just been 15 minutes in and been like,
yeah, that's the one.
That's my guy.
Yep. Like I said, true ride or die, like, doesn't know John at all, but was willing to just hang out in the fucking parking deck during a terrorist attack.
He's like, hey, this works out.
Just waiting on a phone call.
Yeah, give him a call. And it doesn't, I'll get you a hotel. It's all good. Like, yeah, what a dude.
Great dude. Absolutely great dude.
Awareness could be higher.
Could be higher.
He's vibing.
Yeah,
he's doing his thing.
He's trying to have a good time. It's Christmas Eve.
Right.
Toughest hang.
Ellis.
It's Ellis. Fuck.
So,
man.
some of these are just too obvious.
Yeah, I thought we'd have a lot of overlap, especially in this section of the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ellis. So I think at the start of the scene where Ellis comes in and is trying to negotiate with Hans, my wife is like, "Can we just get rid of this dude already?"
Gruber's like,
yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
We both did not know how soon that was going to come, but we were both very pleased. It was kind of sad just because he's just such a moron that he doesn't even understand what he just did to himself. And John, who can't stand the guy, is even like, dude, like, I'm trying to save your life right now.
Yeah, I'm doing everything I can.
But yeah, no person in this movie that I would not want to hang out with that dude.
Yeah,
I don't think I could spend 5 minutes in a room with that dude.
People romanticize the 80s, and it's a thing that I just do not understand. I'm not going to get political about the 80s. I could, but I won't.
Reaganomics. What?
Yeah, I won't. But what a shitty decade. Just pretty much defined by greed, corporate avarice. It's just like it was. How low could we sink? What was the 80s to me? Fashion. Music for the most part. There's some good 80s music. It's not all bad, but I mean, compared to the 90s, come on, get out of here. Yeah, and Ellis is, like I said, the 80s personified. He was like, what if Scarface was a real person? Like, not the character, but the movie itself was a real person.
Yeah.
That's fucking Ellis.
Yeah.
And yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah. So I think we were gonna go ahead and nix the next award.
Yeah, Top Bop. If I had to pick one, it would be Christmas in Hollis by Run DMC, just because it's the only non-standard ass song in this movie.
I didn't really have one for Top Bop. Like I said, I don't like Christmas music at all. So
I mean, I'm not gonna say I love Christmas in Hollis. I definitely do not love that song.
Yeah.
But
if you had
it's not Let It Snow, and it's not Beethoven's Night, so it's kind of like the default pick for me.
Yeah.
So instead, we decided to go with our favorite kill from the movie. So John, what do you? John, what have you done?
I am
James.
Flattered.
James,
I could never do that. I am pretty fond of a couple. I'm not going to mention the runners up, just in case you have one of them. But I decided on the shooting through the table kill.
Yeah.
The one of the only one-liners in this movie that kind of worked for me.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, you're out of bullets now. What are you gonna do? And next time you have a chance to kill somebody, don't hesitate." And it's pop, 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 pop. Thanks for the advice. Like, it's still kind of corny action movie shit for me, but the combination of the line and the kill, I mean, that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
I think that did it for me. But again, couple runners up. We'll see.
Yeah. Mine is Hans Gruber. His death is just, I mean, paying off the little non-consequential line of dialogue at the beginning about how she just got a Rolex.
Yeah.
And that's essentially how Gruber dies, is she gives up the Rolex to kill Gruber, and like that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And the reaction, it's so good. It's very real too, because McTiernan told Alan Rickman, on the count of 3, we're gonna drop you. So he goes 1, 2, and they dropped him on 2. So the reaction is completely real. He did not expect to be dropped at that moment. So, and then they made him do another take, and they kept the first one. Go figure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my favorite one in the movie.
That's pretty cool. I remember watching that scene, and the slow-mo was kind of weird, but when he makes the surprised face, I was oh damn, that was good. So, yeah, that makes sense. That's good. That would bring us to my honorable mention for that was going to be the Carl chain kill.
Yeah,
it happens really quick, like you said. Like, kind of, how does that? Well, it's not even a kill.
It's
not even a kill.
Yeah, I was gonna pick that for my favorite, but it's he doesn't die. So yeah, I let it go. I had to go with the Gruber pick instead.
All right, well, that'll just move us right along then.
The best fit. Who you got for best fit?
It's John in the tank top,
Yeah.
barefoot. Kind of easy answer, but I mean, there's not a lot of variety in this movie.
No.
So, what'd you come up with?
Man, it's Gruber.
Gruber.
Motherfucker's so slick. Oh man, it's just a great suit. Just looks, like a man who's in charge. Like it's just a great look. I don't have a whole lot to say about it.
I hear Arafat has the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Phillips, London.
Yeah.
The Takagi suit, technically. It's the John Phillips suit he's referencing. He says he has two, but I don't know.
Oh, that's not
the
the
one he's wearing at the time. Yeah,
you're right.
But I mean, if he has two John Phillips suits and the one he's wearing is probably fucking expensive, so
yeah.
Must be really good at being a criminal. So the John C. Reilly. If you could replace one character from this movie with John C. Reilly, who would you replace?
I almost want to hear your answer first, but
I am not scared. I will happily go first.
Go for it.
So my thought with this category generally
my answer
is to replace a character that is not central to the plot necessarily, more peripheral, but that you see often enough to appreciate the fact that it's John C. Reilly in the role. So for this movie, I was like, fuck that shit. And I chose Bruce Willis.
Okay.
Because I would love to see the Nobody with Bruce Willis. You know what I'm saying? Like the Taken with, I said Bruce Willis, with John C. Reilly. Like, give me Taken with John C. Reilly. Give me fucking Die Hard with John C. Reilly. Give me John C. Reilly, the action hero that we all need in 2022.
Bro. That's fucking. I'm just running through Yippee-Ki-Yay and
Man,
all the.
This would be a really fucking fun movie. I don't think it loses anything.
No.
I guess the shirtless scene at the end is significantly funnier to me, I think, than it currently is in the movie.
Yeah. I'm speechless.
I think I warned you. I was like, I don't think it's the direction you're going to be expecting me to go. So
no, not at all. I'm very speechless.
I was like, don't be surprised when you're surprised.
My only explanation for being speechless is that I am just picturing John C. in this movie, and I want to see it.
Yeah, I will buy tickets today for Die Hard with John C. Reilly as the lead. Who you got?
This was another one. I think this was second to last on the awards. It was tough for me, and then kind of like it seems to do, it just popped right in there. I tend to lean towards the goofier, sillier picks. What's gonna get a kick out of me. I want to see John C. Reilly as Ellis.
Yeah, I considered Ellis. Yeah, I was thought I had why Ellis?
Just because he can do obnoxious really well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And he can do the party guy really well. I not only would it be hilarious, but I think he would legitimately be good in the role.
Right.
Like, I think he could actually kill that role.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's got to be Ellis for me.
Yeah, I considered Ellis. I considered Deputy Chief Robinson, but that just seemed a little too on the nose, like because that character is already so goofy. It seems kind of obvious, like a little too chalk to choose that. Yeah, I just couldn't resist. Like I said, I would just love to see the action movie version of John C. Reilly. I mean, it's one of the few things I haven't seen him do yet, so give it to me.
Again, wow. Like, I would watch that movie.
You'd be crazy
Straight
not
up.
to. You'd be crazy not to. It would be the new best Christmas movie ever. So the next category or next award is Zombie Apocalypse Survival Team Member. Who do you have on your team so far?
So far, I have Hagrid from Harry Potter. I've got E.T., Jim from 28 Days Later, Marta from Knives Out, Neytiri from Avatar, and unless you have the same character, I now have Theo.
It's a good choice. I consider Theo. I don't have a person on my team that can fill the role that Theo could fill.
Yeah.
I assume that's why you were leaning in the direction of Theo.
Yeah, so Theo for me, his knowledge when it comes to technology might not end up being all that useful.
Yeah.
If we're in a zombie apocalypse, the grid might be down, but the guy's still smart.
Right.
I didn't bring him along for his personality.
Right.
I don't think there's someone. Don't get me wrong. Everyone on my team, I think, is fairly smart. Hagrid maybe bringing up the rear, but he's still capable. But you could always use a Theo. You can always use somebody to take the heavy lifting, the heavy thinking off of your plate.
Yeah.
As you said, I view myself as the leader of my team, and I think Theo slides right in as a good right-hand man.
Yeah.
I don't think he's inherently evil, so I don't see that being a problem. I think we can get him on the, get him on the right path. So, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I considered Theo. I thought the opportunities for his expertise would be less
right
common in an apocalypse scenario.
But hey, we bring that grid back up.
Yeah, I mean, and again, in the early days when there's still power and stuff, like he's invaluable because he gives you access to shit you probably wouldn't have otherwise.
Right.
So if you get him early, he's a really good guy to have. As things get more about surviving day to day, I think he becomes less valuable. So that's why I went with the pick I did, which is extremely Walking Dead voice. Coral. I need an enforcer, basically.
Okay.
He's kind of my Hagrid.
Yeah.
I don't have a character that really fills that role. You got Jake Sully. Who's helpful.
Oh shit! Yeah, who's on your team?
So we have Buckbeak from Prisoner of Azkaban. We have Selena from 28 Days Later. Michael Taylor from E.T. Benoit Blanc from Knives Out, and Jake Sully from Avatar.
All right.
So I think it's a pretty well-rounded team. I have the best team. I don't know if y'all are following along. I'm just saying I have the best team. But like I said, Selena is kind of muscle, but at the same time, she's not a big body. You know what I mean? Like she could still be overpowered just because she probably only weighs like 110 pounds. You know what I mean? Right. So a larger person could still manhandle her. She could still be more easily overwhelmed by zombies. Whereas somebody like Carl, who's practically fucking unkillable.
Yeah.
It's hard to put this guy down, apparently.
Gotta put one literally right here.
Yeah. Like center mass, that's not gonna stop him. Hang him, not gonna stop him. Zombie bite, probably not going to stop him. He'll be fine. So yeah, that's kind of the role I need right now is that big body defender, just a physical presence on my team.
Word.
But I do have qualms about his inability to stick to the script when the necessity arises. He's a little rogue. Yeah, that's a good term for it. Yeah. He wants blood. He's gonna go get blood, and like sometimes like focus,
right?
Coral, focus. So that just leaves the MVP. Who do you have as the MVP of Die Hard, James?
I think there are many correct answers to this. My choice is Alan Rickman.
Mm-hmm.
My choice is Alan Rickman because I believe that if you're going to have a movie like this, you need a villain like Hans Gruber.
Yeah.
And you need to have the performance like Alan gave.
Right.
I think that this movie easily falls apart if you don't have an actor of that caliber.
Yeah.
And I mean, shit, he wasn't even an actor of that caliber at this time.
Right.
As I understand it, this, like
First film role.
Yeah, like you've said multiple times, like this became the villain that every other villain was compared to.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot imagine any other actor. That's easy to say when you watch movies and you're not able to see anyone else in the performance. Right. But like really, I don't think this movie without having him as Hans Gruber, like you can still have Hans Gruber in this movie, but like without that performance, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think this movie does it without, sure, another actor could have given a phenomenal performance and I'd be giving them MVP, but like,
yeah,
I think that you take a great Hans Gruber out of this movie and it's pretty shit.
Yeah. I mean, I won't say it's shit, but it's a replacement level movie. It becomes an all-star because the Gruber performance, Alan Rickman performance really just elevates the movie to another level. You almost root for the dude. Like it's hard not to be like, man, I almost kind of hope this guy wins because he's fucking great. I really enjoy this character. And he is kind of what I was referencing on the Knives Out podcast when I was talking about how I felt about Ransom. Mm-hmm. Gruber's a better villain than Ransom, I would say for sure. But just that idea that like when you have a villain that's that good, like it's hard for me not to appreciate them as being one of the best characters in the movie. And, I think we're both in agreement that he really, truly is the best character in this movie.
Yeah.
Whether he's our favorite or not, objectively, he is the best character in this movie. So, Die Hard, man. Would you watch this movie again?
I would, but, even more curious as to who your MVP is.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess my explanation of your MVP kind of revealed
so
to
did you? Okay.
So initially I did have Bruce Willis, but I was like, I can't really. It wasn't so much that I thought he was the best person or the person most responsible for the fame of the movie, so much as I felt like this movie was most MVP for him.
Yeah.
Like don't get me wrong, like this completely jump-started Alan Rickman's film career. Like he had nothing before this in terms of film roles. So once this came out, like he got a lot of offers. Most of them were villain offers, so it took a long time for him to get out of being typecast as being Hans Gruber.
Yeah.
That was a process to be able to find roles that were outside of that range. But there's not a single person that this movie did more for than Bruce Willis.
Yeah,
who was again a TV. They say star, but like he was an actor on TV.
A guy on TV.
He was the guy on a popular TV show.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know that you would consider him a star. No one believed in him as a movie star. No one thought this movie was going to do especially well. He got taken out of most of the marketing for this movie. Like a couple weeks into the marketing for this movie, they were like, oh, no, audiences are not responding to this guy. Maybe we should rethink how we're marketing this movie, which they came back around to the marketing featuring more of him as it got after post-release when they saw that audiences responded well to the character.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it might differ past our generation or around our generation, but I think most people, you know, Bruce Willis is the guy from Die Hard.
Yeah.
You know, that.
Yeah, I mean, there's maybe The Sixth Sense. I think those
maybe.
are probably his
Yeah.
two most
Yeah.
famous movies. I'm a big fan of Fifth Element, which will be a podcast someday, guys. Stay tuned. Any other thoughts on this movie?
Let me just scan. So I came across, I thought it was kind of an interesting tidbit. It's not really relevant to anything, but do you know what the Hungarian title of this movie is?
I do not.
So the Hungarian title is Give Your Life Expensive.
Dope.
The title of the sequel is Your Life is Even More Expensive.
That's amazing.
And the third part is titled Life is Always Expensive.
Yeah, I don't love the third one.
The
Third title could be better.
I just thought that was fucking great. Like, how lost does that shit get in translation to become?
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Give your life expensive.
I was, I don't remember. I was watching some video. It was on YouTube, and it was Harry Potter characters, and they were giving the actor and the name of the character, and the name of the character for Nearly Headless Nick was Nick Head Almost Cut Off. That was just one of the funniest things I'd ever read in my life. I couldn't. I very rarely comment on YouTube videos. It almost never happens.
Yeah.
You should comment on ours all the time, because that's what a responsible YouTube viewer does. They subscribe, they like, yeah, they comment, they do all those things. They push the buttons. So that's what you should be doing. But I rarely do it, and I just felt the need. I had to comment. That's the greatest. That's the greatest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Oh, I am the king of leaving shit out. We have talked so many times about show don't tell, and one part of this movie that I really loved where they did show don't tell was the first time you get Holly. It's her intro scene, I believe. And she's on the phone with her daughter, and they're panning through the pictures, and you see nothing but pictures of Holly and the kids. No John.
Right.
And at the very last second after the conversation, you get the John reveal.
Yeah.
And I just love the way they went through that entire scene and pretty much told you the situation.
Right.
And never showed it to you. Or, excuse me, never told it to you.
Right.
So that was something I left out from earlier. But
yeah. Kind of like E.T.
Now
like
it's in there.
They never say divorce in E.T. But
Yeah.
you understand what's happening because of the context. Yeah. Really well done.
Yeah.
That all you got on? That all you have on Die Hard?
Life is always expensive.
Yeah, that is the truth. We can't make it any cheaper for you, but we can keep coming back with more podcasts. See us again in a couple weeks. In the meantime, make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast. Comment on YouTube. Follow on Twitter at Must Have Missed It. Instagram at Must Have Missed It. Follow the TikTok at Must Have Missed It. So join the Discord.
Email,
yeah. Email at
musthavemissed@gmail.com.
That's the one. Yeah.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Bye.